Ah, a beautiful garden. But not just any garden. Our next art project is inspired by the famous artist Claude Monet. Claude Monet was born in 1840 in France. He loved to paint outdoors, and he is also described as the father of Impressionism. He also loved gardening. And this is a fictional book about the magical garden of Claude Monet. Claude Monet was an artist in France, and he was a very famous artist for painting landscapes and pictures of his garden. So this story is about a little girl named Julie who lived in the city, and she wished that she could have a garden. Her mother takes her on a trip to the magical garden of Claude Monet. If you like stories about gardens and adventure, then I definitely recommend reading this book. Our goal in this project is that not only will you know about the artist Claude Monet, but that you will be able to create your own impressionistic garden with a reflection. The element of art that our goal to use is called texture. We're going to make texture by painting the garden with sponges, and we're going to create balance by making a reflection. So if you think you can make an impressionistic garden, then you're ready for the next step. This project is called a landscape. To start your landscape, what you're going to need is a small piece of white paper, and we have to turn the paper horizontally. That means hot dog style or wide style. Once you get your paper, you are going to fold it in half, and like I said, this is called horizontally. And when you open it up, you have a line that goes straight down the middle. That line is called a horizon line. A horizon line separates the land or the water from the sky. And in this picture, this is actually the water, and the trees make a reflection. So we're going to be making a picture of a garden. This is a landscape garden with the water at the bottom, a bridge going across, and trees at the top. So the first thing I do is always the same. I pick up my pencil and I write my name on the front. I put my code on the back, and then I'm ready to start drawing my bridge. Now the bridge in this picture is actually a Japanese style bridge. It's curved and it goes all the way across. So I'm going to try drawing a curved line because that's the first element of art is line. But I'm going to turn these into shapes by drawing lines underneath. These are curved lines that go across the page. I'm also going to draw some straight lines. These are called vertical lines. They go up and down. Once you're finished drawing your bridge, the next step is to start painting. Now in Impressionism, it looks really fuzzy and kind of like there's lots of little dots, and there's really nice texture. So we're going to make the texture by painting with a sponge, and I'm going to show you how to do that next. Okay, so I have my newspaper. I'm going to get a cup of water and a small paintbrush just in case, because you can use a paintbrush, but mostly we want to paint with the sponges. So I'm going to grab a small sponge, and right now the sponge is kind of hard. I'm going to get it wet just a little bit. Alright, so now I have my pink newspaper. Now, the bottom of the paper, remember this is the horizon line, this is going to be the pond. So we're not going to paint down here, we're only painting the trees at the top. So I'm going to take my sponge, I'm going to dip it in. Now there is green, but I know yellow and blue will make green. So I'm going to dip my sponge a quarter in the yellow, a quarter in the green, and then I'm going to start sponge painting trees around the bridge. So when you're sponge painting, you don't wipe like a paintbrush, you stamp it. And if you look, I'm covering up my... So you can see I've finished sponge painting all the top of my garden using a sponge and yellow and green paint. Now I'm starting to add flowers to my garden using a Q-tip. When you paint with a Q-tip and you make small dots, that has a name called pointillism, and it's a type of Impressionism. So I'm going to add some more. I have some red flowers, but I would like to add some orange. So I'm going to dip my Q-tip in the orange paint, and then I'm just going to do dot, 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 dot. I put one dot and then 5 little dots around it. Now, once you are finished painting your flowers, the next part we can work on is drawing the reflection. And what we're going to be using is an oil pastel. So these are markers. Right here it says oil pastels. Oil pastels are kind of like crayons, but they are even better because they're thick and they're dark, and you can actually mix colors together. Now, oil pastels can be a little messy, so I like to lay down a newspaper, and if you lay down a newspaper when you're sponge painting, that also helps you keep your table clean. Now, you put your sponge in the sink, and you get your oil pastels, and the color I like to start with is brown and white. I use brown for the top of the bridge, and then I'm going to draw the reflection with white, because the reflection isn't as dark as the real bridge. So if you look, I'm coloring in my bridge brown nice and neatly. And I'm going to color in the vertical lines. These lines that go up and down are vertical on the bridge. And then the reflection, I'm going to use white and draw it upside down. And if you notice, you can't really see it. It's kind of invisible. You won't see it until we paint the water blue with the watercolor paint. So I'm drawing my bridge. I'm coloring it with white. You can't see it yet, but you will when I start painting it. Yes, Rudy, just a second. Okay, now that I've drawn my reflection with white, now what else can we add to our pond? Well, Monet liked to draw and paint lily pads. And some people really like to get creative and draw a little frog sitting on top of the lily pad. If you want to get creative, you can do that too. After I've drawn the lily pads, I used a light green. I'm going to make it look even more real by mixing dark green. Hi! Okay, once you have your reflection colored with white, lily pads, oh, I forgot, you can also draw water lilies. Those are the little flowers that grow on top of the lily pads. After you finish all of that, if you have time, the next step we're going to be painting the pond with blue. So we're going to be using blue watercolor paint. It's a liquid watercolor paint that I pour into a cup. I mix with a little bit of water. And since this is mostly water and the oil pastels are made out of oil, oil and water won't mix together. So you can actually paint right over top and you're going to see the reflection just like magic. Rudy, can you say magic? Magic! So I'm only painting the water under the horizon line. Remember, that is where the pond and the garden meet. And you see what happened? Now you can see the white oil pastel underneath the watercolor paint. Now this doesn't work with all paint, only watercolor paint because it's mostly water. But I could also paint the sky using a different color blue, or I can use a little bit more green. But once I'm finished painting the water, I can put my picture on the drying rack, and I can't wait to see how awesome all of your gardens turn out. So this type of artwork is called Impressionism, and it is inspired by the artist Claude Monet, and that's my little frog right there. All right, so get started and have fun, and I can't wait to see what a great job you do. Bye!